Russia plans to build the world's longest tunnel, a transport and pipeline link under the Bering Strait to Alaska, as part of a $65 billion project to supply the U.S. with oil, natural gas, and electricity from Siberia. The project, which Russia is coordinating with the U.S. and Canada, will take 10 years to 15 years to complete. TKM-World Link, which groups companies involved in the development, said in a statement handed out before a press conference with Russian officials in Moscow on Wednesday. In today's video, we will be showing you how Russia is building a $65 billion tunnel to the U.S. Without further ado, let's begin. A bridge or tunnel of some sort that physically connects Asia with North America through the Bering Strait has been considered for many years now, but apparently each proposed project for such a titanic engineering feat has up to now remained in the fantasy stage. Recently, the Russian government put its seal of approval for the construction of the world's longest tunnel, spanning the Bering Strait at 64 miles, 103 kilometers, a project financially estimated at $65 billion today. In 1905, Tsar Nicholas II dreamed of a bridge that would link North America with Asia and provide a direct rail route from Russia to the U.S. Nothing of the sort could have been possible with the technology available a century ago. But the idea wasn't bad at all, and hopefully, it will become a reality in the not-too-distant future. The centerpiece of the project will be a 65-mile-long tunnel, 2 times longer than the British Channel Tunnel, that would pass underneath the Big Diomede and Little Diomede islands in the Bering Strait, built in 3 sections and crossing the international date line, reconnecting the 2 land masses in the process. Details released to the general public are still scarce. It's pretty clear, however, that the tunnel would offer incredible economical and political advantages. The tunnel would have a highway, high-speed rail tracks, a fiber optic network, and pipelines for gas and oil. The railway would actually connect the Siberian interior with the U.S. East Coast, resulting in a railway network across 3/4 of the Northern Hemisphere. Besides the obvious infrastructure advantages, the tunnel would also be responsible for impressive energy generation. Proposed tidal energy plants could provide 10 gigawatts of energy, and a string of wind power fields could churn a constant supply of clean energy. The private-public partnership project, first shelved in 2007 and recently accepted by the Kremlin, will see the light of the day after good time, though. It will take 15 years alone for the tunnel to be completed, theoretically, while the railway system, which needs to be complemented on both sides of the Bering Strait, might be complete by 2045. When and if ever operational, though, it would mean a passenger will be able to board a train in London and catch a direct trip to New York. Amazing by all means. Despite such an ambitious project having been approved by the Russian government, on the U.S. side, there doesn't seem to be too much commotion around it. They seem to somewhat confirm the deal, but nothing really in an official manner. One thing's certain though, the Russians build big. A 6,000-kilometer, 3,700-mile transport corridor linking the U.S. with Siberia will feed into the tunnel, which at 64 miles will be more than twice as long as the underwater section of the Channel Tunnel between the UK and France. The tunnel will be split into 3 sections to link the 2 islands separating Russia and the U.S. This will be a business project, not a political one. Maxim Bistov, deputy head of Russia's Agency for Special Economic Zones, said at the press conference, "The Bering Strait tunnel will cost $10 billion to $12 billion, and the rest of the investment will be spent on the entire transport corridor. The tunnel will contain a high-speed railway, highway, and pipelines, as well as power and fiber optic cables, according to TKM-World Link. Investors in the so-called public-private partnership include OAO Russian Railways, National Utility, OAO Unified Energy System, and pipeline operator OAO Transneft." Viktor Razbegin, deputy head of industrial research at the Russian Economy Ministry, said the Russian and U.S. governments may eventually take 25% stakes in the project. This will be a business project, not a political one, Maxim Bistov, deputy head of Russia's Agency for Special Economic Zones, said at the media briefing. Russian officials will formally present the plan to the U.S. and Canadian governments next week, Razbegin said. The Bering Strait tunnel will cost $10 billion to $12 billion, and the rest of the investment will be spent on the entire transport corridor, the plan estimates. The project is a monster, Yevgeny Nadershin, chief economist with Trust Investment Bank in Moscow, said in an interview. The Chinese are crying out for our commodities and willing to finance the transport links, and we're sending oil to Alaska. What? Alaska doesn't have oil. Tsar Nicholas II, Russia's last emperor, was the first Russian leader to approve a plan for a tunnel under the Bering Strait. In 1905, 38 years after his grandfather sold Alaska to America for $7.2 million. World War I ended the project. The planned undersea tunnel would contain a high-speed railway, highway, and pipelines, as well as power and fiber optic cables, according to TKM-World Link. Investors in the so-called public-private partnership include OAO Russian Railways, National Utility, OAO Unified Energy System, and pipeline operator OAO Transneft, according to a press release that was handed out at the media briefing and bore the company's logos. Russia and U.S. may each eventually take 25% stakes, with private investors and international finance agencies as other shareholders, Razbegin said. The governments will act as guarantors for private money, he said. The World Link will save North America and Far East Russia $20 billion a year on electricity costs, said Vasily Zubekin, Deputy Chief Executive Officer of Hydro OGK, Unified Energy's hydropower unit, and a potential investor. It's cheaper to transport electricity east, and with our unique tidal resources, the potential is real, Zubekin said. Hydro OGK plans by 2020 to build the Tugerskaya and Penzhinskaya tidal plants, each with a capacity of as much as 10 gigawatts, in the Okhotsk Sea, close to Sakhalin Island. The project envisions building high-voltage power lines with a capacity of up to 15 gigawatts to supply the new rail links and also export to Northern America. Russian Railways is working on the railroad from Prevyalina, south of Yakutsk in the Sakha Republic, to Welin on the Bering Strait, a 3,500-kilometer stretch. The link could carry commodities from East Siberia and Sakha to North American export markets, said Artur Alexiev, Sakha's vice president. The two regions hold most of Russia's metal and mineral reserves, and yet only 1.5% of it is developed due to lack of infrastructure and tough conditions, Alexiev said. Rail links in Russia and the U.S., where an almost 2,000-kilometer stretch from Angra to Fort Nelson in Canada would continue the route, would cost up to $15 billion, Razbegin said. With cargo traffic of as much as 100 million tons annually expected on the World Link, the investments in the rail section could be repaid in 20 years, he said. The transit link is that stream on which all our industrial cluster projects could hang, Zubekin said. Japan, China, and Korea have expressed interest in the project, with Japanese companies offering to burrow the tunnel under the Bering Strait for $60 million a kilometer, half the price set down in the project, Razbegin said. This will certainly help to develop Siberia and the Far East, but better port infrastructure would do that too and not cost $65 billion, Trust Nadershin said. For all we know, the U.S. doesn't want to make Alaska a transport hub. The figures for the project come from a pre-feasibility study. A full feasibility study could be funded from Russia's investment fund, set aside for large infrastructure projects, Bystrov said. So guys, let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. For more interesting content, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more awesome content. Have a nice day, and I will see you in the next video.